Yesterday we were talking about multiplication strategies, and we actually touched on 3 separate strategies yesterday. So, with your pencil and your paper, I would like you to put at the top of this piece of paper multiplication strategies, and underneath I want you to write cheat sheet. And so copy down everything you see on this paper, pause until you're ready. Okay, now we've done cheat sheets before, and basically this is one piece of paper that contains a lot of really important information. So when we did this for place value, we had all the different ways that you could write place value on, I think it took us 2 sheets because we had quite a few ways, but it's just a really compact way to write all the big ideas. Okay, so we're going to start this cheat sheet today, and then we'll add to it as we go on. So this is a piece of paper I want you always to keep handy where you do your work. If we were at school, I would give you a special colored piece of paper so that it would be easy to find, but I cannot do that. So we will do the best we can. Okay, so number 1, we are going to write the first strategy that we used last time, which was repeated addition. So I'd like you to copy this out. Repeated addition. Okay, and boys and girls, always just pause the video until you're caught up, okay? Because I will just keep going. All right, so repeated addition. So one way to think about multiplication is to think about adding a number a certain number of times. So we are going to put an example of what that is underneath. So let's do 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. So we're going to write that 5 times. Okay, so make sure you have the number 2 written 5 times. Equals 10. Okay, and then underneath that, we are going to write what multiplication sentence that is telling us. So how many times did we add 2? Or how many groups of 2 did we have? We had 5 groups times 2 in each group, or 2 each, and we have the same answer. Okay, so one way to think about multiplication is if it says to you 5 times 2, then you think to yourself, I have got to add 2 5 times. So you start counting by 2s and you have to do it 5 times. Okay, and we're going to write underneath what this means. It means 5 groups. Remember we talked about these important words last time? Of 2 each. We're going to add the word each in there today. Equals 10 altogether. Okay. So get that all copied out, and when you're ready, you can go on to the next page. Okay, number 2. Now, we talked about this a little bit, but I just want to show you the difference between repeated addition and skip counting. I think I made it kind of confusing last time. So let's talk about skip counting. So we're going to use that same example. And what is different about skip counting? Skip counting means that this is a number pattern that you remember. Counting by 2s, counting by 5s, counting by 3s, counting by 10s. So in your head, you can easily skip count. So here's how we would do this one. We would say 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So I skip counted by 2s. That's what I was counting by 2s. Right? I'm counting by 2s. And how many times do I skip count? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I am going to skip count 5 times, and each time I skip count, I'm skip counting by 2. So let's take a look at how that's just slightly different than the other one. I actually prefer skip counting because I just hold up on my hand. So boys and girls, why don't you copy that out, and then I'll show you a picture here. Okay, so pause the video until you have that copied out. Okay, this is how I would do this. And when you guys say, this is a weird looking hand, but when you guys say your times tables for me at school, I can see you doing this on your fingers sometimes, and this is okay. But this is what you're already doing. So in your head, you know that you know how to count by 2s. And you know that you have to count it 5 times. So I see you doing this. You get your hand ready and you kind of flick this finger a little bit. You go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And you know that you've used all 5 fingers. Oh goodness, we made a claw there. You know that you've used all 5 fingers, and you know that you counted by 2 each time. Okay, so you didn't say 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. You actually already did the adding by doing your skip counting. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay, so let's pretend that we have both our hands here. Whoops. Not very good, Mrs. Ratzlaff. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so let's think about, we're going to count by 2s again, but let's think about 7 groups this time. Okay, so now we want to include 7 fingers. So think about what finger that's going to take us up to. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to count up to that finger. Okay, so here we go, counting by 2s. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. So we skip counted by 2s, and we did that 7 times. Okay, so you don't need to draw all this or write this down. We're just going to think about this a little bit. So 7, so you counted 7 times, and each time you skip counted by 2, and you got 14. Okay. Let's try this with a different times table. Okay, let's try this with not 2 times tables this time, but let's try this by 5 times tables. Okay, so this time we are going to count by 5s. Okay, but how many times? How many times do we want to count by 5? So let's say we're going to count 8 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I want you to get your fingers ready in front of you, just like the diagram. And we're going to do this. Okay. So when I write, you can tap your fingers down on the table if you like, or whatever. So here we go. Get your fingers ready. So starting with your left hand, let's say it together. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, now your next hand, 30, 35, and 40. There you are at finger number 8. So we counted 8 times, and we skip counted by 5. So we just kept adding those 5s, and now we have got 8 times 5 equals 40. Okay. So that's a really quick way. If you know how to count, let's say you know how to count by 3s really, really well, but you get confused sometimes. Which one is 3 times 8? Which one is 3 times 9? Or you know how to count by 7s really well, but you get confused sometimes between 7 times 6 and 7 times 8. So let's try it with a harder times table. Okay. All right, so let's choose, this time we're going to count by 8s, okay? So let's do a tricky one. So let's say you get mixed up between your 6 and your 7 times 8, okay? So let's do 6 times 8. But you're really good at counting by 8s. You've got it memorized how to do it, okay? So we're going to count by 8, but we're going to count 6 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so here we go. We're going to count up to our 6th finger, but we're going to skip count by 8. So we're going to say this pattern. Here we go. Get your fingers ready on your desk and you can do it along. So 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48. Okay, so 6 times 8 is 48. So if you get stuck on some of those, you know the pattern, but you get stuck or mixed up between them, that's a really super way to figure it out. Use your fingers to count the number of times you are skip counting by 8. Okay? So if you want to, boys and girls, write down or draw this little example for yourself so you remember how to do that. If you already know how to do this, because I've watched some of you do it when you say your times tables to me, then you will know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so pause if you need to draw that. Okay, number 3. Number 3 we just touched on last time, but number 3 is draw a picture. So I want you to write this down. And we just touched on this last time. Draw a picture. Or look at a picture and figure out the times table. Okay? And you know Mrs. Ratzlaff, food is always a good thing that combines with math perfectly. So we're going to do some chocolate chip cookies. Okay? So underneath here, we're going to do 4 chocolate chip cookies right there. And each chocolate chip cookie is going to get 5 chocolate chips. What's a chocolate chip cookie without chocolate chips? It's just a cookie. All right, so can you pause the video until you have that drawn? Okay, let's write out what we've got. We have got 5 cookies, and the cookies are the groups, times, 4 cookies. What am I talking about? There we go. I'm already thinking the next thing. 4 cookies times 5, we're going to shorten this, chocolate chips. Each one of them. So those are the number of items in the group. Okay, this one is the number of groups, and this one is the numbers of items in the group. Okay, I want you to pause the video until you have that all written. Okay, now we've got this picture in front of us. So if you already know 4 times 5, you've got it memorized, you know the answer is 20. Okay, well let's use I think skip counting is going to work really nicely for this. So what are we counting by? We're going to count by 5s because we're adding 5 each time. So let's count by 5. So here we go. 5, 10, 15, 20. So we drew a picture to help us figure it out, but we're also using skip counting in there. Okay, so our answer is 20, and that is the total number of items. And what are we counting? We are counting chocolate chips. Okay, so this number at the end here, does this mean how many cookies? Do we have 20 cookies or do we have 20 chocolate chips? Well, we have 20 chocolate chips. That's what we are counting. Okay, so the question might say, if you had 4 cookies and each cookie had 5 chocolate chips, how many chocolate chips would you have all together? Okay, pause the video until you have that all written out. Okay, now what I would like you to do is I would like you to push this piece of paper away, because we will add to our cheat sheet tomorrow and the next day whenever we try a new strategy. So push that paper away, and I want you to get out a new piece of paper, And this is what I would like you to have on it. So this is our math work for today. So pause until you have yourself set up. Okay, so we're going to practice these 3 strategies that we looked at today. So I am going to give you an instruction and I would like you to try to do it. Now, I said push that cheat sheet away because I didn't want you to write on it, but you can have it right beside you now. And guess what? Use it to cheat. So look at it for how to do the question. Okay, here we go. Number 1. Now you do not have to write my instruction. So just put number 1 and I will tell you what to write next. Do not write this little part next, okay? So you're not writing this, but this is your instruction. So read it. Okay, let's read it together. Use repeated addition to show 6 times 3 equals 18. Okay, so now go back and look. That was our first strategy. So I want you to think about number 6 is the number of times or the numbers of groups. The 3 is what we are adding each time. Okay, so I want you to see if you can write your sentence underneath. It's not multiplication, it's addition, and you're repeating a certain number over and over and over. Okay, so pause the video, look at your cheat sheet, see if you can figure it out. Okay, repeated addition means we are going to have a bunch of numbers being added, but it's going to be the same number each time, repeated. So we're going to repeat, add. Okay, what are we adding each time? So let's say the language that goes with this. 6 groups of 3 each. So we are adding 3 plus 3. Those are our groups that we're adding, but how many times do we add it? 6 times. So you should have 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. So count that out. Make sure you have 6 threes. And at the end, you should have your answer. So give yourself a check mark if you got that right. Okay. If you did this, 6 plus 6 plus 6, then you actually showed me 3 groups of 6. You would have gotten the same answer, but I would like you to have that language in your head. 6 groups of 3. So that looks like this. 6 groups. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 groups and of 3. Okay. All right. If you didn't have that written out correctly, then erase it and write it out correctly. And then when you're ready, go to the next page. Okay. Number 2. I'm going to give you a different instruction now. And use your cheat sheet. That's what it's there for. Okay. Draw a picture of 7 times 3 equals 21. So look at your cheat sheet. The easiest way to draw a picture is to do circles and objects inside the circle. Okay, so we're going to do a really simple, we can do a simple picture here. But remember your language, 7 groups of 3 each. Okay, so pause the video. You can do cookies and chocolate chips. You can put something else inside your circles, whatever you would like. Okay, pause the video until you're done drawing. All right, most importantly, you should have 7 groups. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't care if you drew triangles or squares or circles, but there should be groups, okay? Now you should have 3 items inside each. So if you went with the tried and true chocolate chip cookie, you have 3 chocolate chips inside each group. You could have had 3 stars, you could have had 3 dots, you could have had 3 of the number, 3 of a letter, okay? So you could have done it like this. So anyways, if you had 7 groups and 3 things inside, give yourself a check mark for that. You could have done your groups like this. Here, I'm going to do something different. Let's do squares. These are groups, as long as I have 7 of them. And what am I going to put inside each one? I am going to put 3 squiggles inside each one. Okay, so that'd work. No problemo. All right. As long as I have 7 groups and 3 of something inside each group, I have done this question correctly. Now you could get even fancier. So you could do this. You could draw a person. So I could draw 7 people. So the person is going to be holding a group of something. So watch how I make this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I've got 7 people, and each one of them is going to be holding 3 balloons. So the person is the group because the person is holding 3 objects. Okay? So for this one, I could do that. I could be drawing balloons. I could have 3 snore signs coming out of each person. I could have a pizza with 3 pieces. I could have a tricycle. So I could have 7 tricycles and each one has 3 wheels. Okay, so as long as you have 7 distinct groups and you can see 3 of something in each group. Okay, all right, on to the next page. All right, number 3. Use skip counting to show, let's do 8 times 4. Okay, look at your cheat sheet. What are you counting by and how many times are you going to count it, right? So think about that. Are you going to count by 4s or by 8s? What does the first number tell you? The first number tells you how many groups. The second number tells you what each group is worth. Okay, pause the video and see if you can write out your numbers for skip counting. Okay, I kind of gave you a big time hint there because I wrote 8 spaces, but we have 8 groups. So we're going to count 8 times. We are counting groups of 4. So we're going to start at 4 and we're going to use skip counting. So now I'm going to add 4, which would give me 8. I'm going to add 4 more, 12. I'm going to add 4 more, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32. Okay. Now, for you smarty pants that say, I know how to do this, I know how to do this, I know how to do this, that's great. But remember when we did place value and you thought you knew how to do every part too, and I said to you, you have to be paying attention to the language. What am I asking you to do? And you need to know for grade 4 what strategy to use and what's the best strategy to use. Okay, so you have to be reading your instructions really carefully. Does it want you to draw a picture? Does it want you to skip count? Does it want you to do repeated addition? And we're going to be adding more strategies as well. And so when the question says, show this, and you get the correct answer, the question might still be wrong because you didn't choose the right strategy. So it's not just about knowing the answer. Okay, here is your job to do by yourself. And this is what I'm going to look at when I look at your math work today. Okay, so pay attention to the language. And whoops. And you can see that I've given you the answer already. So it's not about arriving at the right answer. It's about doing this question in the correct way. So I would like you to write in your answer there, and you are done for today.